Jai Hind everyone. Myself, Dr. Suvarna Mujumdar, Assistant Professor in Electronics and Communication Engineering Department of Ajay Kumar Garg Engineering College, welcomes on a lecture of Introduction to IoT. In this lecture, we are going to cover the understanding about IoT fundamental and its significance, its definition and the characteristics of Internet of Things, elements of an IoT ecosystem, sensors, actuators, and data management system. First of all, we start with understanding what is an IoT, Internet of Things. As we all aware of this term IoT, but it allows everyday object to communicate, sensing their environment and acting automatically. So, Internet of Things is nothing but it is a mechanism where we give an object to communicate or to sense the environment and act automatically. How it works? It needs a controller, and with this controller we can give an object a voice and a brain. The controller will act as a brain and it enables the object to sense the environment and take the action accordingly. So the controller will be the brain with the object, which will will give a smartness to an object. What will be the benefits if we connect an Internet of Things, or we can say we make any object and smart object? It makes our life easier and it makes the device to smartly work. So the connectivity, or we can say the Internet of Things, have an efficiency. So to make the any process smarter, we need four components. One is the sensors, which can gather the information or data for these devices. Then we need a software or programming to enables the data to be processed and for communication for that purpose. And for communication the data, or we can say for to communicate the data or to communicate between two devices, we need a network. So this network help us to exchange the information between the devices. And to make this all the process automated, we use some sensor as well as actuator to reduce the human intervention. So all these components make the system smarter, or we can say the process will be smarter. Now, if we have to define IoT, so the main component, or we can say the main thing, is interconnected network of physical object. So IoT refers to a interconnected network of a physical object or a things, where we embedded sensors, actuators and other controller, or we can say, to make the device smarter. So this sensors will help us to collect the data, and processor or controller will help us to communicate with the other other system, or as well as to process that data. And for communication we need an internet for this. So IoT enables the device to sense, communicate and interact with other user or other devices. So IoT is nothing but an interconnected network of a physical object. For example, we have a thermostat system. Now, in a general thermostat system, we don't have any IoT enabled, but if we make it a smart system, then what we have to do, we need a sensors and we need the connectivity, so that Wi-Fi enabled network will sense the value to the user at the app. So at the mobile, if we have an app, then it will connect the data. If mobile is at the same network and your thermostat is also at the same network, then the connectivity will be established, and the information that sensor has measured, that is temperature, humidity, which will be sent to the user. So accordingly, the climate control based data will be adjusted. Now, another example for a smart system is smart plantation. So here, if we connect with a plant, we connect a sensor, that is soil moisture sensor. It will take the data. From this data, if there is a controller, it will send through Wi-Fi network the data to the user, that is on mobile. The dashboard will be on mobile, and from mobile, user can send a signal that it has to sprinkle the water to on the plant or not. So accordingly, the action will be taken and the sprinkle will be on and off. So this will be the steps for smart plantation. This is the one of the example for IoT. Now, what will be the impact of IoT? So, the fundamental shift of the, you can say there will be a fundamental shift of the data, technological trend, evolution will be there, physical digital connection will be there, we will be have a bridge between a real and virtual world. Cross sector benefits should be there as it will enhance the productivity and things, and the system will be smarter, responsive to the technology. Now, if I say that IoT is transforming the impact on various sectors, whether we can say in education, business, healthcare, and in our daily life also. So, with this, if we make our system smarter, it will definitely enhance the productivity in case of the business. In case of education, we can say we can improve the learning experience and accessibility. In our daily life, it will makes our daily things to be easier and it will be helpful to us. In case of healthcare, if we say the data should be monitored, controlled, and through automated, and it will help doctors and other hospital staff to maintain the data state using automated system. Now, if we say that we are using IoT to make our devices smarter, so it will be making the business successful, because when we are going with the manual task, it will be a very slow process and there will be a chances of error prone to the system. So if we make the system automated and we collect the data, then in that case thousands of data or information will be collected without an error in the case of automation, and it will shift the response and information to the growth side. Means we can enhance the productivity as well as the accessibility in case of any system to take the decision. Now, if we go with the real-time analysis, how it will work. So, first of all, it will gather the data. In any system, we need sensors to gather the information or gather the physical data. And when this information is collected, then we have to examine this data. Or we can say we have to analyze to find the insights. We have to compare it with the threshold values, or we have to do some analysis to get the accurate information from the collected data. Then we have to identify the pattern or the trends for this data which we are going to collect. From this data, we have to do some decision making. So when we first examine the data, that we have to take the appropriate data, then we have to find the pattern, then from that pattern we have to take the decision, and from this decision we have to make the system automated, or we can say to enhance the system. So this will be a closed loop system if we are going to have a real-time data analysis using IoT. Now the characteristics of IoT. First of all, we have a connectivity. Connectivity is the most important characteristic of IoT, which ensure that data should be communicated between the devices. Then second one is the interoperability. Interoperability is again an important characteristics, because we have different data devices, and we wish to have communicated, or they have to work together. So in that case, we need interoperability, that it should not be restricted to one manufacturer. So it enables us to connect the different manufacturer devices on one platform. Then third is the data collection. We have to collect the data in real time. So data collection is again an important thing. Then the fourth one is the automation, that we allow a machine, or we can say the things or object, to act on that data without human intervention. And here the controller will come into a picture, where it will be automated the system. Then we have a scalability. Scalability, we will change the number of devices so that we can enhance, or we can improve the performance and of the system. So scalability should be there. Real-time operation. So data should be processed and make decision at the real time with minimum delay. The latency should be as low as possible. Then heterogeneity. we have to manage different devices and carrying different capabilities. So in any IoT system, there are different sensors, different devices which communicate. So the sensor should be such that we have to collect the heterogeneous data, and it will give the context awareness so that we can understand the environment and its preference. Then the important thing come into a picture is that we make the system smarter, that is intelligent, and data analytics should be there. And most important thing is the security and the privacy. When we are going with the IoT based system, we are going to share our data on the internet, and for that we need some protection for data, so that there should not be a data malfunctioning, or devices should be of threat free. So these are the characteristics of an IoT system. Whenever we have any system, these should be some points that should be keep in mind. Now the elements of an IoT ecosystem. An IoT is in a complex network which have an interconnected element, and each element have its own functionality to make the system successful. So as we start from the sensors which collect the data, then this data has to be sent to the cloud or edge, where this data has to be processed. From processing, after processing, we have to have user interface, or we can have an automated system. So each system or each element should have its own process and its own responsibility. So the elements of an ecosystem, IoT ecosystem, consist of creation, management, and utilization of an IoT application. Any IoT application have these many elements. So starting with the devices and sensor, then we need a connectivity. So we need a connections between the devices and the system. Then we have a computing. Computing will be at edge or it will be at the cloud. It depends on the application. Then we need to be process the data, and we have to analyze the data. So there are two things. Either we can have an edge computing, so that we can reduce the data set to be shared to the cloud, or we can do this with the edge, and then only we don't need the cloud platform. So again, it depends on the application. Then after that, we need to have a user interface which will make the user to interact with the system. Security, privacy, we need to have all follow the rules and guidelines given by the government for this security purpose. We need to have a management and monitoring system, so that we can manage the data. We will see how we can have this data management. Then data integration and APIs should be there, and regulatory compliance should be there in any ecosystem. So these are the 10 elements of any IoT ecosystem. Now, as we say Internet of Things, we are making data objects to be interconnected. The sensors come into a picture. So sensors are the fundamental components of an IoT system, and they are responsible for collecting the data from the environment. As we all aware that our data or information is analog in nature, so we need these sensors to get this analog information or physical information, which will be converted into an electrical signal, and which will be then processed through our controller. So sensor has various types of data collection. So if we start to measure, so role of the sensor, first is the data collection. It process or gather the information from the environment. Then it should be monitoring also, means it will observe the data. Signal conversion should be there. We are transforming a data into an interpretable signal, whether it will be an analog signal or digital signal. And we have various types of sensor designed at different measurements. So let us see the different types of sensors which are available. So like the most important, or we can say generally we use a temperature sensor. So this is a thermocouple which is used for measuring a temperature at industrial process or in monitoring the system. Proximity sensor, this detect the presence or the absence of an object, or we can mostly we use the presence of human being at any places, parking system or mobile devices, for detecting the face recognition and industrial automation. Light sensor detect the intensity of light. So when mostly in projects where we need to detect the presence of light or intensity of light. This light sensors is used. Gas sensor, it detects the presence of gases like carbon monoxide, methane, oxygen. So while monitoring an industrial safety or home safety system, we use this gas sensor. Gyroscope, it measures the orientation or rotational motion of any system. So mostly in smartphones, we have this mechanism for the rotational or motion of our device, and vehicle navigation system also uses this gyroscope. Optical sensor, it is used light intensity to detect the object or analyze the reflected one. So mostly it is used for medical imaging, or we can say barcode reader. Now, there are many different, or I can say many other sensors are there. These are some of the sensors listed here. As per depending on the application, we can select the sensor range of the system, or we can say what will be the range of the temperature. Like in case if we are going to monitor temperature at industrial application, that is in the range of 100 or somewhere. In that case, we will go with the thermocouple. But if we go for ambient temperature, then we will use DHT sensor. So again, depend on the application, we use different types of sensor. Similarly, actuator also play an important role in the industry. So actuator is the device, or we can say used at the end. Here, sensor is used at the start point of an IoT system. Actuators are used at the and where action to be taken, the signals has to be converted into a mechanical action or electrical action. So while sensor gather the data, actuator carry out the commands. So actuator are nothing but which convert electrical signal into a physical action. Sensors are the devices which convert a physical action in data into an electrical signal. So both are different. So the different types of actuator, the most commonly used is the motor, which convert electrical energy into a mechanical action. So mostly in robots or in a movement where we need a motion, we use motors. Like in automatic door opening system or in conveyor belt, we use motor. Relay, again the most important actuator, which operated to control the high power devices. Like in home automation, if we have to turn on or turn off the light, we use this relay. In industry also, if we have to give signals to high end motors, then we use a relay to operate it with the controller. Pneumatic actuators, again it converts an electrical signal into a movement of through piezoelectric effect. So it's a precise positioning system, or we can generally use this in a printer. Next one is our rotary or actuator. It will convert electricity into a rotary motion. So it uses in the gimbals of the camera. Now we can say that how we can integrate the sensor actuator in an IoT system. So sensors are used for data collection, which collect the data or information. Then for decision making, we use different processor or controller which will take the decision, and this decision is then given for action to the actuator. So based on the decision, the actuator get triggered and an action to be taken. For example, in a home automation system, depending on the temperature sensor, a temperature sensor sends the temperature. It will give this value to a processor. Processor process, or we can compare with a threshold value. And if the temperature is below the threshold value, then actuator will actuate the heater, that it will on the heater so that it maintain a particular temperature, room temperature. And if temperature is higher than the threshold value, then in that case either a face fan will be on, or depending on the temperature exceed the threshold value, or an AC will be on. So the decision will be taken at the controller end. Now the data management system. In case of data management, it again we have lots of data which we are connected through sensors, and we need to store it, process it, and we have to utilize it. So depending on the requirement of the data inside, we have different network framework for this data management. Data collection is the first thing. Then we have to data transmission. If we need that remote end should be there, so we transmit the data. We store the data for further action to be taken. For example, in weather forecasting, we transmit the data as well as we store the data for future aspect. Then we need to process this data for real-time operation. Data analytics to be there, which will gain insights from the data for further action to be taken. Data should be secured and it should be a privacy should be maintained. Integration with other systems. So, for example, if one system is having some data storage and another system needs, so we have to integrate this. Then we have to make the data governance, that aging should be there, quality should be there. We don't store a data which is not relevant to the system. Data visualization, we for user, the numbers is not that much useful. We have to draw some charts or graphs for visual formats. And then data monetization, that is revenue should be come from this data formation. So these are the some frameworks that should be managed while we have to manage the data in IoT system. This is all about IoT and its application as well as its characteristics we have discussed. We discussed the use and the application of sensors and actuators in IoT, the elements of IoT, and we have discussed the data management in the IoT. This is all about this lecture. Thank you.